Hello, friends. I'm Dr. Jamali, psychiatrist working in the UK. Welcome to my YouTube channel, Dr. J Official. And today we are going to talk about e-letters. So, what is e-letters? When I started my research journey, my initial struggle was to develop my skills in academic writing. And obviously, when we do our masters and all, we do all the assessments and we obviously we've got a supervisor who can look into our work and provide some feedback. But when you are doing something on your own, maybe you may not get that support, and you want to just test your skills and see uh, whether how good you are with your academic writing. And that's where I felt that the e-letters could be a good starting point for that. So what is e-letters? So then this video especially would be very useful those who are just making a start towards their publication ladder. E-letters are basically a 500 word article. It could You can call it as an article or a correspondence. However, it has to be a 500 word article with 5 to 6 references. So what you usually do is e-letter could be used as a response to an article, or it could be your own, work in a way that you, in your clinical practice, you found something very novel, and then you want to share it. So you can do that in a 500 word, where you are talking about a particular evidence, so which has um, which has been authenticated or it is evidence based, and you've used that in your clinical practice and how it has benefited you. So it can be done in just 500 words. I will talk about the advantages and the disadvantages of that. But in what way can you use the letter? So one way is that you've not done an extensive research, like you've not done any literature reviews or a clinical trial or not, anything of that. So now you found something novel in your clinical practice, but you still want to share it, and you don't have enough time to do a proper review on this. So what you can do is you look at the evidence around the work you've done, include that evidence, and how you use that evidence in your clinical practice and how it benefited you and the overall service. So that is something which could be captured in 500 words. I will give you some examples of my work around e-letters. So you found a concept and you want to capture that in 500 words. Usually when you do a review article and all, the minimum word count is around 4 to 5,000. And that is an extensive amount of work where you're doing a lot of literature search and compiling all the evidence, analyzing it, and then writing a manuscript. So it's an extensive amount of work. This is only 500 words. But what this does is it tests your skills of academic writing, and also it gives you a confidence that something was recognized because it eventually gets published. You will find the e-letter options in most of the highly reputed journals. There will be an option of e-letter, and then you click on it, and then there will be a process of how to submit it, and then you submit. And so it could be a case report. Obviously, you need to anonymize all the patient details. So it could be a case which you can uh, you can write up in 500 words, or it could be an audit that you've done an audit and you want to share this because you found it something novel, uh, or something which needs to be shared. And sometimes what we do is when we do an audit, we would like submit it to our local organization, and then it is published within the organization. However, if you think that this has potential, and there is and this has to be shared to wider audience, to create awareness, for example. So then e-letters could be a, 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 a possible step forward for that. So what are the advantages and the disadvantages of e-letter? A short article with 500 words and five references. So again, it doesn't take a lot of time. You found something very unique or exciting, and then you are doing writing up a 500 words, and then you're applying, you're submitting it for publication. Uh, it has a relatively quick processing time. So based on my experience of e-letter submission, you submit and the editor looks into this, for a couple of weeks. It takes maximum 2 to 3 weeks, and then they provide you with a response whether it has been accepted or rejected. Even if they refuse in the first instance, they would provide with feedback that whether we can modify it or amend it, with the possibility of resubmission, the submission. And then you do it, and then again it takes another couple of weeks. Once it is accepted, it will get published in no time, maybe in 2 to 3 days. It's that quick. So this gives a lot of confidence, isn't it? That you've done a piece of work and you've submitted, it got recognized, and then it is published. So it is now in a social domain. So it gives a new researcher that confidence. And I think it's not only about the new researchers, like, anyone at any stage of their research career or clinical career or academic career for that matter. This can be, it doesn't have to be that you have to submit manuscripts, or review articles of clinical trials every time. There would be something where you feel that no, it doesn't need to be uh, documented in a 4,000, 5,000 word article. Maybe a short 500 words should be enough. So if you are at any stage of your research career, this could be a way of sharing your work to wider audience. And this can be a huge confidence booster, especially for somebody who's just started or they are looking to get their first publication. So this could be a good positive step forward. What this also does is it gives the person an opportunity to develop their academic writing skills. So obviously, if you're writing a sometimes we may find it very difficult to compile everything in 500 words, and you must have noticed when you're doing your assignments where you are being the instructions are to complete your work or to submit. The maximum word count is 5,000. It can't go beyond that. So sometimes it becomes very difficult to compress everything in 5,000 words. And the same principle applies here, that sometimes you want to share a lot of things, but then how are you going to uh, uh, articulate this in 500 words? And that is where this e-letter could be a way of developing those skills. And it also will help you in developing skills of writing references, because sometimes that can be a bit difficult as well, because there are several referencing styles, whether it is Harvard or American or Vancouver style, and they are different. And as a researcher, you need to learn or have the ability of how to use appropriate referencing styles, because not every journal would accept the same referencing style. They have their own criteria. Some may accept Harvard or some may accept Vancouver. So you need to know how to do or use these referencing styles. So, but in e-letter, in most of the journals, there is no specific requirement of a particular referencing style. So, but this gives you some exposure of how to reference your work, and that is very, very important if you're looking to submit articles for publication. Because if you don't reference anything, because whenever we do our work, we use evidence-based medicine, so that work would have been done by somebody else in the past. So you need to acknowledge that and reference that. If you don't reference it and submit it, then that is called plagiarism. So we would want to avoid that. So it's important that you reference your work properly, which is very, very important. So these are some advantages, and I feel it's very it could be a good stepping stone for somebody who's starting their research career. It gives that confidence to get onto the publication ladder. The one disadvantage which I can think of now is that it is not peer reviewed. You submit the eLetter; it's a 500-word correspondence article of sorts. So you're submitting this to the editor. The editor looks into it. It doesn't go for peer review. If the editor thinks that yes, this is a good enough work to be published, so they will accept it and then it gets published. But it would not be included in the recognized research database, such as PubMed or Medline or any other database. So this is one disadvantage of eLetter. However, in my experience, I have noticed that even initially it gets accepted for an e-letter publication, it is still scrutinized and reviewed, and there is every possibility that that particular piece of work can be then eventually published as a correspondence. And then a correspondence article is then included in the research database. And this has happened to me, and I will share that with you. So again, it's not that you have submitted an e-letter, so it can never be indexed in these databases. There is every possibility, but it is rare. So most of the time, these e-letters would be on the journal, but it will not be in the research database where somebody could reference your work potentially. So that is one disadvantage there. E-letter section, and I will quickly show you my work here. So this is the Caesar Development Program. So this got published in 2022, and it is a medical education related work. So I initially submitted as a correspondence. I initially submitted that as a correspondence article, and the feedback I got from the editor is that I should publish this I should submit this as an e-letter, and then I did that, and in a couple of weeks it got accepted. So this is how it looks. It's a 500-word article with references. It's only 2 years, but maximum they allow is 5 or 6. It's very short. Now, what happened with this? That there was an e-letter publication on 4th July 2022, and then after a few months, I get an email that I receive an email from the journal that this has been accepted for a correspondence article, and this is how it looks like. So this was published in December 2022. So as you can see, the e-letter was published on the 4th of July 2022, but then it got published as a correspondence, which is this, this is the e-letter, which is dated 4th of July 2022. As a correspondence. But then it gets into the research database, PubMed Central, in December 2022. So once the e-letter is converted to a correspondence, then it gets into the database. So it got included in the research database. And what they've done is, although they have included this in December 2022, they have retained the date where this was published in the first instance. That was the 4th of July. So as you can see now, this is on the research database, which now can be referenced and cited. So again, it's not that once that it has been on the e-letter format, so that's it, it stays there. Yes, most of the time it would stay there, but there is every possibility where this would be eventually accepted as a correspondence, and then once it is accepted as correspondence, it then goes into the research database, and then people can look into it. It has a wider reach, and then this could people can cite this and then reference this. So then again, it is a proper research article. So there is every possibility of that. But yeah, obviously there was another e-letter of mine which which did not which stayed as an e-letter. I will give I'll share that with you. So the first e-letter I showed was around medical education, and now I'm going to share something which is clinically related, and it is what is art therapy. So this was published on the 20th of January, 2021, and this was my first e-letter publication. And this was actually the beginning. Well, I started my uh, focusing properly on research in 2019, but it was 2021 where I had my first proper publication, and it started with this. And this was about what is art therapy. Uh, we all, in our medical careers, we develop skills. We continue developing skills. And when I was working in neuropsychiatry, I used to see many patients who were struggling to communicate because of whatever neurological problems. And I was always looking to find ways where I could communicate with them. So I did a 1 week foundation course in art therapy, and I found that very useful. And then I implemented that skill in my clinical practice, and it really helped me. I was able to communicate better with patients who were struggling to speak and had severe speech difficulties, and this really helped me. So and there are several art therapy methods, and I use one of them, the 5 part story method, and I found that very useful in my clinical practice. So I wanted to share this. So this is how it looks like. And so as you can see, it's a short 500 word e-letter with references. And here I use 6 references. So again, this is a American style of referencing, but you could use anything. So if you think of references, the difference, if you're thinking of Harvard or American style of referencing, this is the bibliography. But then you also have to do the in-text reference, where you put the surname of the author with the date of publication. In Vancouver style of referencing, that doesn't happen. The in-text references the number. You put number here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and uh, then the end text reference comes in that order. So the first reference is done in the in-text comes here at the end as well. Whereas in the American style, that is not the case. It is in alphabetical order. So it doesn't matter which one you use first, the end text reference will be in alphabetical order. So that is the difference. And that comes with practice and experience. So, but again, this gives you that initial taster of how to do the references. And like again, doing five, six references is a good starting point. And so is writing a 500 word article could be a good starting point. So this, so when I submitted this initially, I only mentioned about the potential use of art therapy in 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 communicating with patients. Then in the first attempt, it got refused, and the feedback I got is that I need to also demonstrate that how this was effective in my clinical practice, and it was. So I included that bit as well, and then it eventually got accepted and it was published. So again, they will give you that feedback. The processing time is fairly quick. So in 4 to 5 weeks, it gets published if it is worth publishing, of course. But they will give you the opportunity, and then you need to work on the feedback they give you. So this is the feedback I got, and that was very useful. Now let me talk about another example. And again, this is my work. I'm not sharing anybody else's work. It's just my work. So this is a review article I did. In my future videos, I will talk specifically about literature reviews. So watch out for that. So I'm not going to talk about this now. I will, but this is the work I did in 2021, and obviously it started in early 2021, and then it got published towards the end of 2021. So this was a review article which I published. It was around hypersexuality. And then what happened was that in in psychiatry we use international classification of diseases, and they mention about every diagnosis in detail, the diagnostic criteria. So before we were using ICD-10, but then now we have started using ICD-11. In ICD-11, they've included compulsive sexual behavior disorder as a standalone diagnosis, which was not there in ICD-10. So we published this review article in 2021, and then in early 2022, we found that this is the compulsive sexual behavior is included in the ICD-11. I'm not saying that it's because of my review article that this has been actioned. No, this has been under process for a while, and it was just a coincidence that we published this review article in 2021, and in 2022 we found that this is now included. So I don't want to take any credit for that. So when we did this e-letter, the purpose behind it, now actually it is in an e-letter format, but it is actually an audit. So when this was included in the new ICD-11 diagnostic the criteria, I thought of doing an audit in my hospital to see whether people are aware, whether doctors especially are aware of this or not. And we did this audit. You can look into the results and all. I don't want to talk about that. You can just type the art name of the title, and then you can find everything online. I did this audit. Now I wanted to share this to wider audience, so that just to create that awareness that this is a diagnosis now, and how this could potentially be assessed. So we because I had experience of e-letter publication, so I thought that it doesn't This doesn't have to be a 3,400, 4,000 word article. I would just do a 500 word, article and then publish it as an e-letter. So what I did is that, in every hospital, we've got a certain template of how to do the reporting of an audit. So I tried to use that in this as an e-letter. So I submitted initially, and then the feedback I received was that, look, it has to be in an e-letter format. So I did that. I modified my work accordingly, and then I resubmitted, and then it got published. Uh, they looked into it. They got back to me in a couple of weeks, and then again within 2 to 3 days, I think it got published. So yeah, so this was 26th July 2023. Then this got published. So again, these are so like I tried to. This was a way of showing that what are those different types of work which you can potentially submit as an e-letter. So the first example was around. Uh, so the first example was around medical education. The second example was around a clinical scenario. The third example was also clinically related, but it was clinically related, but it wasn't. It's a kind of an audit. It was an audit actually, but then I formatted as an e-letter and then submitted for publication, and it got accepted. So you can see the variety there: medical education, clinical, academic as well. So there are ways where you can use it in an e-letter format and submit and get into the publication ladder. So this was my video on e-letter. I hope you like it. Please feel free to share your feedback and comments on the comment box. My next video would be on preprint, uh, and it will be next week. So watch out for that. Uh, and please let me know if you've got any questions around e-letters. I would be happy to support. And my first video was on research, basics of research and methodology. So watch out for that. And thank you very much for your support. And I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye bye.